Hello, everyone, and welcome to another lesson. I'm very happy to have you here with me today. Today, I'm going to explain a little bit about conditions inside of n8n, sort of an overview of how you can do conditionals inside of n8n. We'll go through some nodes and also some expressions that I've learned through experience, through creating workflows. Hopefully, you'll benefit a little bit from my experience, and you will start incorporating those into your own workflows. So without further ado, I'd like to jump right in. So I'm here right now inside of a new workflow. First thing I did was I named it Conditionals. Then the second thing is I'm going to add a manual. So that's a manual trigger. This manual trigger that just means that this only executes if you press this button or this button. You cannot activate it because it's not a schedule, webhook, or triggered by any other API. All right. So this is a manual trigger. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an edit fields node, a very powerful node. In case you don't know about it, I have a video about this node because it's a very basic and powerful node. So the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to get a JSON. Now, in case you don't know what a JSON is, it's the basis of everything that is in n8n. Everything in n8n is JSON. Now, you can create your own variables here, but you can also switch to JSON where you can write your own JSON here. So I have a sample JSON here, just a simple setup here. If I execute here, I'll have all of these variables to play with. I use this JSON just in order to test things because it has different variable types. Like, for example, here it has strings, it has an age, a number, it has an array here, and inside of the array, it has an object. So it has a lot of the variables that I can test with. By the way, this example JSON is available inside my community, as well as this all of this workflow will be as well inside there. So I have my variables here, and the output is there. So the first thing I'm going to inspect is if. So there's if, which is a condition, right? It's a very famous condition. If this equals this, then it's true. If it's not equal, then it's false, right? So we can take, for example, the Jake here. So since here this is a string, so I'm probably going to use the string all of these conditions, right? If it's a number, I will use the number. If it's date, boolean, array. So everyone has their own sets of condition. For example, date and time, you have things like is before that date, is after that date. But those two things you will not find within a string. So every type of variable has their own set of conditions that you can use. All right. For example, also array has a length that you can use. So let's say if the name is Jane. So if I do that and I execute, as you can see, it's false because the name is not Jane, right? The name is not Jane. Now, be careful of capital and, it starts with a capital. Like, for example, if I put here Jake and I execute, it's going to still be false because Jake with not a capital, right? Now, there's two ways to fix this. You can say ignore case. Then it's true because now it ignores all the casing. Or what you can do is you can add a dot to lowercase. Then it changes whatever variable that comes here to lowercase, and then you'll have the true anyways. Okay. So two things to do. So that's the first condition, right? Now I can add more conditions, but of course it caps out at a certain value of conditions. Okay. This is why I don't know if you guys remember, I created a video with the super if node, the one that I created with a code node that you can add as many conditions as you want. But anyways, now there's and or. So let's, for example, grab the age here, and then see it just switched to a number automatically because it figured out that this is a number. So if it is equal to 34, for example, right, then it's true. So both of them are true. We have an and. So this has to be true and this has to be true for things to work. Now, if I put 32 and I execute, it will be false, even though this is true because we have an and between them. Now, if we put an or, then only one of them needs to be true. And then we have true because this is true. And that's all what it needs, right? Only one of them needs to be true. Now, if I put here Jane and I execute, as you can see here, both of them are false. Now, if I put here one of them is true, then it works out. So be careful of and the word or, because the and, all of them needs to be true, but the or, only one of them needs to be true. All right, so this is basically the if node. You can add conditions and then it caps out as I said. This is the basic node. You have a true and a false route, okay? But also you can, of course, I explained in the data workflow, you can add an error output as well for it if you want. So now let's inspect the second conditional node, which is the switch. Now, a lot of people, including myself, use the switch for all cases because the switch basically does what the if does plus other things, right? So it includes the functionality of the if. So for the switch node, as you can see here, we have the same thing here, the same types of variables. Let's grab this here. And we have Jake here, and then let's put here Jake. And then if we execute, so no output data is returned because it is not true, right? So we can use the ignore case or the dot to lower. The reason why I use dot to lowercase because it's specific to this one. If I want the ignore one, makes it to affect every condition here. So then we can see that it outputted 1. Now we can name the output. Now let's say this is output called name, right? And then we will see that the output here is called name, all right? Or we could say, if it's Jake, then do this. So now if it's Jake, takes up this route, all right? Good. So that's the condition bit. Now you can add as well as many as you want, and you can rename each and every one to whatever you want, right? And you will add as many as you want. Now, for the switch node, okay? So the switch node, you can think of it as a sorting mechanism, right? It comes with it, a value comes in, and then it evaluates. Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? Right? And then it outputs, right? Now you can name this, for example, true, and here false, and then you will have I put it here, and then you can mimic. Okay, then it will have a true false, like similar look to here, right? It will have a similar look to the if node. Basically, whenever an item fits a certain condition, it is true. Whenever an item fits another one, it is false. And then you can also add as many as you want, as we said. Now, there's one more thing to the switch node, is there's a fallback. So in case none of the condition work, what should it do? You have a fallback. You can either do nothing or you can add an extra output, all right? And the extra output would be here called fallback. So if none of the condition is true, it will just goes to fallback. All right? I think you can rename the fallback output as well into none, for example. And then it will rename it. If you don't like the the actual name of the fallback. So that's two nodes in terms of condition. What I want to also highlight, and it's also important. Let's grab, for example, this one. So we have the name here called Jake, right? What I want to do is I'm going to go here and remove the name. Okay, so now we don't have an actual name. Here it's empty, right? If I want to put a condition that checks if this, like for example, if I'm outputting something and it's dynamic, and in case it didn't find a name, I wanted to put unknown instead of empty, right? Nothing, right? So what I do is I'm gonna do a sort of an if node, but a smaller if node. And I'll show you what I mean. So inside of the script here, what I want to do is put a question mark first, and then I'm going to copy this and put it here again, and then put this two dots on top of each other, and then put unknown. And notice the results here. So let me explain what is happening. First, we're saying we're going to take this one. If this one is a true a true statement, so what I mean is if it's not empty and it's not null, then use the first condition here, use the first value here. And if it is false, which means it's empty or it has nothing, use unknown. So this is basically an if node, but a compact one. We start with what we want to evaluate, and then if it's true and if it's false. So after after this is false, and the one before it if it's true. Okay? So that's one way to do it. Now here we have empty, so it goes to unknown. Even if we have, let's put null, right? Even if it's null, it will put unknown. All right? It will manage to be unknown because it doesn't have anything. Now we can do the same, but in another way. We're using the if. There's an actual if here. If you see it here, if. So this if also as well takes a condition, and we can grab our, for example, the age here. Let's test with the age. I'm gonna grab the age here. I'm gonna put it here. So I'm gonna say if the age is bigger than 30. So first condition, then the true would be, let's see where we have now. So if it is, then say over 30. And if it is false, under 30. So as you can see here, we evaluated this and it is over 30, right? We put first the condition inside, first the condition, then comma, if it's true, value if true, and then if it's false. This is the same as this, but this is a compact way of achieving the condition, right? It's a compact way. Now we can do the same here. In case you're wondering how I can do the same, I can put here, but instead of this, I can just put this here. All right. What I'm saying is that if this is a true statement, that means it has something inside it, then let's specify here. We can either put this or an actual string, right? And then here we kind of see that it put under 30 because it is empty. We can put here unknown. It is unknown because here name has null. Now if we change the name again here to Jake, and then run this again, it will output Jake because it has something. All right. So what did we do in this lesson? We examined the switch node and we examined the if node because those are two very famous conditional nodes. I always use the switch. Rarely I use the if, but because both of them have the switch can do what the if can. We also inspected the expression, how we can do an if, a condition within an edit fields node with a compact way of the if, or with an actual if statement inside in a script way. All right. I hope this give you a little bit more knowledge about how to use if and how to use conditions inside, because these are very important. If you did like, please give it a like, subscribe for more videos, check out my community, and I see you in the next one.